It's week one, folks. Welcome to Grid Money. Well, welcome to the Knowtheodds podcast, Grid Money. It's good to be here with you guys, and it's good to be back in football season. It's been a long off season, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Looking forward to getting this podcast going with you guys. It's not the premiere episode, but we're going to get things started here with week one on our weekly podcast here in Grid Money. You can find us wherever podcasts are at. We're on YouTube. Go to knowtheodds.net to get any additional information on the podcast and information that some of the stats that we're going to be shouting out. You're going to want to reference us there. It's going to be a great year. We're going to focus mostly on the Vegas lines that are coming out, but I'll give you whatever fantasy advice, daily fantasy, yearly fantasy. Some of you guys put down crazy amounts into your yearly fantasy jackpot. And in my book, that puts you in a league all on your own. Best of luck to you. I'll give you the best advice we can. But just the other day, we started our first family fantasy league. We had our draft day on Sunday. And I'll let you know how it goes partway through the season if we're still talking to each other or not. But a great kickoff to the season. Things are getting going here. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get started. Analyzing games from week one is kind of a different animal, and I'd say it's probably your best chance to outthink the bookies and the lines that they've set up for you. There's a lot of emotion that goes into the week one picks, even from the bookie's perspective. And week one's the best opportunity you have to capitalize on some of those mismatched lines. We'll talk a little bit of how to do that. It's been 9 months, essentially, since we've really seen any action from these players and these teams. What happens in the off-season is a bunch of things that media thinks is the top story, so they push them as the top story, but really it's a bunch of nonsense. And this year has been notorious for the drama that is the typical NFL offseason. We've been talking about anything from helmets to people holding out on contracts again. More about that in a second. Good plays on those guys. A couple retirements, a couple injuries. What's really important when it comes to analyzing a week one game and accurate prediction of what's going to happen is taking the team that you know that we left off 9 months ago, the end of the year, forgetting all that drama that happened during the off season and looking at that team now, asking yourself what's changed in those 9 months, and then analyzing whether or not that change is good or bad. The average bettor makes gut decisions when it comes to betting. The average bettor also is the main influencer on betting lines as they come out and changes, which means the Vegas lines are mainly influenced by emotional decisions and drama. And coming into week one, you've got 9 months of it packed into the first game, and nobody really knows what's really going to happen. But they got these crazy stories from the offseason rattling around their head, and in their mind, it influences how they're going to perform on the field. Our job as handicappers is to ignore the emotional influences and make a decision based strictly on the facts. Have the changes that have happened from last year been good or bad for the team? And how many points does that equal on the scoreboard? Stick to your research and leave emotion out of it. And let's apply that here right now. I'm going to cover my top 3 betting opportunities for week one. I've got more, but I can't give you all of my secrets. So we're just going to cover the top 3 that I'm going to get in on. And I think it'll be fun to track it throughout the year. And we'll see how we're doing as far as making money goes. You'll be able to track my losses or weight gains right along with me. And we'll have fun with it. All right. Oddly enough, we don't have long to wait for the first bet that I got coming up for us. Tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football, first game of the year. Packers in Chicago. I've got the Packers winning. It's going to be a money line bet. I've got the Packers winning it, which might not be a surprising prediction, but Vegas has them as the underdog, which makes it all the more better for us. That's what I would call an emotional line coming out of Vegas there. You got the young up-and-coming team that everybody thinks could have done awesome if it wasn't for their kicker last year. They've seen progress from them over the last 2 years, but it's not a trend yet. Just because last year was better than the year before doesn't mean that they're getting better. It's just one small observation out of the many that need to be taken into account when setting up lines here. On the other side, you've got a healthy Aaron Rodgers who's ready, who is clicking with his new team, his new coach. Got one of the top receivers in the NFL. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's ready. It's an away game for them, but that doesn't hold too much effect on the Green Bay Packers. But again, that's something that a lot of people consider when they're making those emotional bets. And so they think the home team has more of an advantage in this case. And that influences the Vegas lines. In my opinion, there's no reason why Aaron Rodgers and the Packers should ever be considered an underdog by what does Vegas have them at? Plus 140. It's a good bet. I'm taking it, and we'll see how it goes. Starting things right off on Thursday, so I'm excited about that. Up next, you gotta wait a little bit. I know, it's disappointing. You gotta wait till Sunday morning until the Rams head to Carolina to play Cam Newton and the Panthers. All right, Rams are projected to win this by 3 points, even odds there. The lines haven't changed too much on this game in the past few weeks, even after the Cam Newton foot injury in preseason. And keep in mind, he was projected to be healthy just in time for this game. He would not have been healthy enough to play in the last preseason game. He's still healing even now, I would say. He is only going to be healthy enough to play. It does not mean that he's healthy, and it doesn't mean that he's complete ready. It just means that they're going to play him because it's first game of the season and they need him to play. In addition to that, you have a very hungry, ready-to-go defense from the Rams that is going to be making things very difficult for Cam Newton and putting extreme pressure on him. That in mind, I've got the NFC reigning champions winning more than 3 points. It should be a lot more than that. I got them by at least 6. We'll see how it goes. I think 3 is a little bit on the favoring them by 3 points is a little bit too easy for them. This is a bet that's just waiting to be taken. So that's my second bet. Second favorite bet here. Rams to cover in Carolina. All right, third bet. Later that day, Colts traveling to play the Chargers. No lie, it was very disappointing to hear that Andrew Luck was retiring. That being taken into account, the likelihood of the Colts falling apart has gone up tremendously. The Chargers were already listed as favorites before, and they got a lot more going for them than just the opponent changing up the quarterback position last minute and right before game one. They've got a fully healthy team, the offense that loves to score points, and they're very good at it. They're a very well-rounded team. They do it all. And it's likely that they find the weakness in the Colts that they need to capitalize on the win. They are projected to win by 7. I have them covering this as well. More than 7 points. I hope Brissett does great and the Colts have an amazing year, but it's likely that it's going to start off with a learning period and adjustment, and that's going to show itself on the scoreboard, not in their favor. And that makes it a good bet in my book. So those are my top 3 bets for week 1 in the NFL. Next, let's go over some deals that are going to be happening for the daily fantasy teams. You're going to want to go to our website, knowtheodds.net, the fantasy rankings page. We've got the top of each position listed out, as well as some of the deals of the week, and that gets updated weekly, so make sure you go check that out before you draft your teams. We hope that that'll help you with your research on who your team should be made up with. This week, mostly going to focus on the running backs. There's a lot happening out there. We mentioned those holdouts. We got Melvin Gordon and Zeke Elliott holding out still on their contract deals, which gives opportunity to very well-priced running backs if they're still out come start of the game. This is the same position the Steelers were in last year when Le'Veon Bell held out, and that's when James Conner came onto the scene and did an amazing job fantasy-wise. And I'm not saying history is going to repeat itself. Oh, wait, hold on. History always repeats itself. And it would be wise to jump in on some of those scenarios that we have if these stars are still holding out on week 1. Number 1 deal of the week that I have is in I keep saying San Diego. I'm still not used to it, but it's the LA Chargers. If Melvin Gordon is still holding out on his contract, a very capable and a very skilled player, Austin Eckler, is going to take the stage. And right now, on FanDuel, he's listed at $6,400, which is a steal. He would be my top pick to put in this week. Completely unrelated from that situation, there's a guy in Jacksonville who, for most of the season last year, was injured, but he's healthy, he's excited, he's ready to go, and we're seeing good things coming out of him and high hopes for him this year. For the price of $7,200 on FanDuel, it would be a steal to have Leonard Fournette on your team this week. I would have loved to have featured Le'Veon Bell as a deal of the week. I was hoping that they would put him in at a cheaper price. I think he's going to crush it this week. I don't know that it's going to be enough to get the Jets to where they want to be this year. But from a fantasy perspective, Le'Veon Bell is going to do well. He is a little bit more on the expensive side at $7,800. So you're probably going to want to look at a cheaper option in the running back position. But there are a lot of options out there. Go check us out, fantasy rankings page at knowtheodds.net for the weekly updated deals of the week. Now, sports betting has been a major subject in the last couple of years because of the 2018 case that made betting a state's issue. New Jersey has now joined Nevada as the 2 states that are fully legal to bet online. It's just too easy for them at this point. The rest of us have to look at other options. Now, you may have heard of these online offshore sports books. You'll see ads for them all the time. If you're wondering about whether or not that is a good option or even a legal option for you to place money on sports, we're going to talk through it a little bit here. It is illegal for somebody to run a sports book online in the United States. To get around that, many of these offshore bookies, most of them are in the Caribbean islands, but there are sports books that have opened up for American bets. Now, that in of itself is illegal. Foreign sports books are not allowed to take American bets. They are not allowed to do that. Now, the FBI has made it clear that their focus is on the actual sports books, not on the people that are placing the bets. Most states do not have a law in place when it comes to betting on offshore sportsbook websites, which makes it, when people ask all the time, is it legal? Is it illegal? Probably in the state that you're in, it's neither. It's just not mentioned. Now, there are a few states where it is expressly written that it is illegal to place a bet on offshore betting websites. If you are in one of those states, then it becomes illegal for you to place bets on the offshore bookies. Now, keep in mind, nobody in the country has ever been arrested for placing online bets. Nobody in the country has even been charged with placing online bets. Like I said, though, depending on where you're at, there's a couple states in the U.S., you'll have to look up which state you're in, that it is forbidden. But to me, it sounds a little bit like spitting on Sunday, you know? Yeah, it's illegal in some states, but does anybody really care? No, they don't. So take from that what you will. Now, if you do decide to go through the offshore booking option, unfortunately, you do have to keep your eye out for scams and irreputable websites. Here's a good way to check on whether or not the sportsbook you're considering is a viable option. Most all of the offshore sportsbooks will take your money. You can open an account. You can place bets. The odds are the same as Vegas odds. They all operate about the same. But when it comes time to withdraw your money, they'll start dragging their feet. If that happens, thankfully, people tend to be very vocal about it. So before you even deposit money into the sportsbook that you're considering, look up if anybody has had trouble with them dragging their feet when it comes to withdrawals and payments. If you see any history with that bookie being sticklers when it comes to paying back the money, probably not going to be the sportsbook for you. There's many others that are upstanding and don't have any trouble giving your money back within a few days, depending on the option that you deposit or the option that you choose. But withdrawal problems is an easy way to look up whether or not the sportsbook that you're considering is the way that you want to go. So good luck with that. Well, that's about all that we have for today. This is going to be our weekly podcast coming out every Wednesday. Looking forward to going through this season with you guys. If you have any questions or things that want to be brought up in the future, reach out to me here in the comments or knowtheodds.net. Good luck placing your bets. We'll see you next week, guys.